So this is a video to go over the crown template that I am providing you for this project. And this is going just to be an overview to describe what the template is, what it looks like, and how you would go about using it, and what some of the information that is on it and some of the layers that are turned off are, and so forth and so on. So up at the top, we have the distributors information. So we have the Crown logo, their tagline, and where you see all this blank information up top, this is where you would have a client name and uh, company information and some other descriptive elements for this label. For your purposes, I've deleted all this information because I do not want it to be a distraction or get you confused or anything like that. There is a large note up in the upper right hand corner, and this basically states that the company, Crown, can go in and adjust your artwork so that they can produce the highest quality possible within their production standards. On the right hand side, underneath that red note, we have a key that shows you what all these lines indicate, and we have some UPC information that applies to their requirements. On the left hand side, we have a can. On the left hand side, we have a line illustration of a can, so you can kind of get an idea of where this label or where your design will be printed. And there are two different things that can get printed for a beer can. You can get a shrink wrap label that they physically just wrap around the can and they shrink wrap it with heat, or you can print directly on the can. And in our instance, and with the specifications I gave you, we are designing the can as if it is being printed on aluminum or on substrate. And if we go up into our layers panel in Illustrator, you'll see that one of the layers is called substrate. And that may be turned on, it may not be turned on, but if it's turned on, I'll show you what that looks like. But the substrate is basically whatever your can is, and in our instance, it's going to be aluminum. Sometimes you'll see a layer right above substrate that says white, and that's because oftentimes they will lay down a white base on the can, on the aluminum, and for that reason, that's why white counts as one of your colors. If you in your design just leave something white and not like draw a box around it, that will be the color of the can. Another layer that we have, and I'll turn on here in a minute, is something called a tactile area. And this is basically your live area, basically the area in which the consumer grabs the can. And then we have these another layer that's maybe turned on or turned off, and that is the dimensions of the can itself and of the live area. So let's zoom back out, and I want to turn each of those layers that are turned off back on so you can see what the template would look like if you received it from Crown. So this is with all the layers turned on, and you'll notice that you have this purple area which indicates your tactile or live area. You have this light blue area in the background of that behind the purple, and that's your substrate layer. And then you have all these measurements on your can that indicates the different areas of the can. But for our purposes, we can go ahead and turn those off because we don't need those. And we'll notice that we have another layer called artwork and another layer called required info. You want to make sure that you put your artwork on the artwork layer. And one of the things, if we quickly go back and turn on these measurements, this center area that is designated by these areas, and it also says flat area, this is the center portion of your can. And we'll look at another template here briefly, that usually you would put what you want it to be on the front of the can right here in this area. And then subsequent information can go on the right and the left. The required information required by law is that you have 12 fluid ounces and then the percentage of alcohol and the government warning. Some of the other information that is required by Crown is these marks right here, this logo, a little production code, and then a date code. And then, of course, you need a UPC or a barcode. And they have specifications and a description of the barcodes here. And then another requirement I'm having you put on the can is this Brewers Association, Independent Craft Brewers Association. And this is an association that craft brewers can pay a membership fee into and get some benefits. But you also get the benefit of putting the logo on the can. So those are the required elements that have to be on the can. And you have your live area indicated by this box right here. From the green, it's basically from the green line down to this bottom bluish gray line. That is your live area. And what that means is you can have design go all the way up to the red, or your can limit. But you want to kind of keep in mind that the green line indicates where the can will actually bend up to the lip of the can. And then the bottom part of the can as well is just going to be low. It's always a good idea to keep your design kind of up off of the bottom of the can and then down below the rim, the curved rim. So this is what your template's going to look like. Like I said, some of the layers may be turned on. They may be turned off. To be honest, I can't remember how I saved the file and then attached it to your project sheet. Now let's dive into another type of template, and I'm going to turn on all the layers of this, and this is an actual design that went out to production. So if I turn on the entire template, you'll notice that this is completely different than the Crown template that you'll be using. This is actually from a different company called RBDG, and they do the same thing that Crown does. And what breweries will do and other beverage companies will do is they'll look around at different production companies, different can companies, and see who will give them the best price. And in Omaha Brewing Company's case, RBDG gave them the best price. So we were provided a template, or I was provided a template to work from. And I am pretty sure that this template at one point had bleed lines and everything like that on it. I just have, at this point, this is probably my 14th or 15th can design I have done at this point, and knew where everything needed to go, knew where my overlaps were, things of that nature. I can show you as I zoom in here. If I turn my guides on, I had guides all set up to where the overlaps are. So I know my overlap is right here and right here. And there's probably some information in that all that description on what the exact measurement of the overlap was. I also had an indication of where my clear space was, and it indicates that right here, 18 millimeters from the top. So all my type actually falls below that 18 millimeter rule. And then it notes, it's recommended to keep all artwork 7 millimeters from the bottom, which is basically, it's this line right here. But I had gotten into a habit at this point of moving my artwork much further up the can, just based off of past experience with shrink wraps and how it sat on the can. So a lot of the design that you see here comes from experience, past experience of designing multiple cans over this period of 2 years. As you can see on this template, the center is a little off center. Now this is a short 12-ounce can. You are designing on a tall, skinny 12-ounce can. So there is a little bit more room on this template than there is on the sleek can design. So we have the information on the front, and again, just from experience, I know how wide I can go on these cans. So I knew how wide and how big I can make my type and my imagery and things of that nature. Probably for you, what you're going to have to do is design something and then export it as a JPEG, a high-res JPEG. And at this point, I would also suggest that you find your mockups sooner rather than later, so that you can go in and actually put your design on a mockup and see how it wraps on the can. And through your research that, like I said, is suggested that you do, you'll be able, hopefully, to be looking at different designs on cans. And I would really hope that you actually went to a grocery store and looked at the products instead of just using the internet. And being able to look at the cans and seeing what type of information is on the can and so forth and so on. So a lot of this was provided to me by the client. The description of the brewing company was worked on between myself and the client. So we both wrote a little bit of it. As far as the other information on the can, it was my suggestions as well as their input. I presented the concept for the Island Rain brand. I presented how everything would be presented on the can, what information would go on the can, where the information would go on the can, what the entire design would look like. And I did what I'm asking you guys to do. I presented a PDF presentation, sat down with my clients, and I gave them my rationale based on my research, based on the target audience I had identified, and I sold them on this design. It changed very little from the initial presentation to final production. Now, some things did change between the two because they worked with an outside marketing firm that actually tested this on test groups. And I can actually I was just looking at the bottom here, and I actually moved off the artboard, but you can see the recommended main art placement, recommended nutrition facts barcode, and other info, and then other info down here as recommended by RBDG. It's the same dimensions, I just moved it over on the can a little bit. So this is how a design is applied. Like I said, it's a different template from a different company, but the same principles can be done with Crown. I've designed on Crown templates before, so the principles apply no matter what company you're working for. But that's your overview of how you are going to work on this Crown template. And so have fun and explore and be creative and be curious. And the project is really in your hands. What you do with it, what you research, what you come up with, it's all in your hands. So like I said in my audio overview, I look forward to seeing what you come up with and seeing what you design over until the 12th of November when it's all due. Thanks for your time.